So these are the materials I used for the video. We got the Prismacolor colored pencils in assorted colors, Charpak markers. These aren't the only ones I use, but I'll show you the other ones as I use them. A 2H pencil for not so dark lines, a sharpener, my swatches that are the fabrics I'm going to be rendering, mostly the checkered one and the blue one, and then my pencils with the eraser, very important. These are the designs that I'm going to be doing in this project. They're very important. They're called flats. This is the paper I work with. It's the Borden & Riley number 37 marker paper pad. And this is the design that we are going to be using. So the first thing I do is I use the 2H pencil to trace over every line in the design. So this is to basically show through the paper and make sure I can actually see what I'm doing when I go back in with the markers and the colored pencils. Because markers, you don't actually color from the front with the art mark. Oh, there was a mistake. Fixed it though. Markers, you actually draw from the back of the paper instead of the front, because otherwise it acts weird with the colored pencils. So, music. Oh, so hat lines. I think the paper shifted a little bit. Had to fix that. Oh, eyes. Oh my god, drawing eyes. You know that problem with drawing the other eye? Yeah, I think everyone has that. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So, like, if you're going to be doing fashion drawing, you just practice faces. Like, that's the best advice that my teachers have given me, is just practice your faces, have a file of faces on hand. No one really ever said to use a 2H pencil, but I found that it kept the line dark enough to be able to see from the reverse side of the paper, while still keeping a light enough line on the front of the paper that it doesn't really show through too awkwardly in the final work. So right here I'm just drawing in the shoes. And now I'm using the Buff Charpak marker to draw in the skin. You start from the head and then you work your way down. This is not real time, by the way. This is actually speeded up 4 times right now with the coloring, so I do not draw this quickly. Basically, when you're doing skin, you have to just make sure you don't get splotchy, so you do have to work kind of fast. Otherwise, the marker dries and you get an uneven layer of color, which sometimes you want, but right now it's not what you want. So, like the leg right now, it just came out very evenly because it was pretty quick. Arms, I usually work from the top down and also from left to right because I'm right-handed. I know some of my friends who are lefties work from the top down. Oh, flip the paper, double check. Oh, always put in your light source so that way you know where to put your shadows. So my shadows are coming from the right side of the paper, which means my light is coming from the right side of my paper, which means the light is coming from, shadows are going to be on the left side of the figure. Right now I'm going in, I'm adding shadows where there are shadows, like the left side of the face, the left side of the right breast, next to the hair, where the clothing meets the body, on the body, the right side of the stomach, which creates a more of a rounded effect, and then same thing on the arms, same thing on the neck, collarbone. Always put in the collarbones because that is just, it adds interest to an otherwise boring area. So here's checking what the front looks like. Always just flip back and forth. Remember, we're coloring on the back side of the paper. So here, double checking, that was the crimson red, I think. Yeah, that was the crimson Charpak marker. And I only use that, oh, Naples yellow. We have a hat, so Naples yellow is one of the colors that I didn't show in the beginning. Naples yellow, I used it for a sun hat. It's a good neutral color. Cool gray number 1. We have a lot of white in the suit that we're doing, and you want to highlight the shadows when you're rendering a white fabric, so you use cool gray number 1. It's the lightest of the gray fabrics. Just only put cool gray number 1 where there is a shadow. And now I'm going back in, adding more depth to the sun hat. This is crystal blue. This is what I'm going to be using for parts of the bikini, where there is plain blue fabric. You can see the top that I'm drawing, kind of, it's the second row of suits up from the bottom, kind of on the top of the screen. So now we're going into colored pencils. I have in my hand right now a true blue Prismacolor, and the one that I'm sharpening right now is actually called a very thin lead. And very thin pencils, they hold the point better, which is good, because right now in the video, as you can see, I am drawing lines because I'm rendering the checkered swatch that I showed you guys earlier. And the normal Prismacolor, the point doesn't stay sharp enough to get that line that I needed. So the very thin lets me get a line. It's a much more waxy pencil than the normal Prismacolor. Normal Prismacolors are beautiful, they blend well, but for my purposes with the checks, I needed a sharp, thin line, so use the very thin. When you're rendering checks, you have to keep in mind cylindrical perspective and how the body is actually a 3D object, so you can see they curve. So right there, that was the not the light umber pencil. That was I think the burnt sienna pencil. Yes, that was ochre. Yeah, burnt ochre. And now I'm back in with the true blue one to do the hair ties. I'm basing my figure off of Judy Garland, who was the original Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz movies. So her hair was a reddish brown. That's the back to the cool gray. For the back sides of the shoes are being rendered with a crimson red colored pencil, and I just broke the lead. So back in, sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. I added depth just now to the edges of the red part of the bikini because the marker wasn't too great on the edges, and then the bow, and that's what really ties the red on the top and the red and the check. Like, yeah, I like the bow. Right here, I'm keeping in mind the light source. Kind of. I actually mixed it up, and it should have been from the other side, but don't worry about it. It's okay. We're going in with the white now to throw in some highlights on the breasts or the boobs, so that way they appear to be a 3D object. Not too much, though, because I don't want it to look cartoony. I want it to look realistic without being a cartoon, or without being photorealistic, but I also don't want it to look like a cartoon. Same thing with the hat. You add highlights. That is a dark brown colored pencil. I like using that to put very dark tones in the hair, and I just had a bunch of papers fall, but yeah. So that's what I use to add the shadows in the hair. It's called dark umber, actually, not dark brown, in case you're wondering. That one right there is the Tuscan red, which is a very, very, very dark red color. That one was light umber. It's good for lighter tones in brown hair. And now we're back to the burnt ochre, or burnt ochre. It's a good reddish pencil. I added the eyebrows with the burnt ochre color, and I lined the eyes with the dark umber color. So this is just your stereotypical pink colored pencil from Prismacolor. It's actually called pink. I use that for the lipstick over a little bit of red, and then I highlighted the lips with a little bit of white right in the middle, so that way the top lip looked a bit more three-dimensional. That pencil right there is the cool gray, the warm gray dark, and back in with the Naples yellow for the hat again. And we're going to use the light umber to add some contour lines and straw, basically. We're going to render it like it's straw, like a woven straw hat. So it's kind of like checkers, but not as precise as the ones on the suit. We just want to give the impression of it being woven. And I got some on the face, got to erase that. So back with some highlights, and boom, we have a 3D hat right now. Same thing on the shoes, and some highlights, because I'm not sure what material they're supposed to be, but they are red because Dorothy had lovely red shoes. Both sides, just gotta make sure they pop. So, shoes should never really take away from the rest of your image. They should add to it, so, yeah. And then, we take that warm gray again, and we start outlining very carefully and very thinly the figure to give it, like I said before, we want it to be cartoony, but not like a cartoon, and we want it to be realistic, but not too realistic. Use the warm gray dark pencil to basically make the seam lines pop and make it really just that extra little bit of added oomph, make stuff stand out. So right here we've got that going on. And don't be afraid to turn the paper to get a better angle. Like, it's easier to draw lines going straight down or towards you than to draw them going horizontally or away from you. I don't know. It's just easier for me, so I turn the paper a whole lot when I'm in this stage. And again, I like to work down the figure from the top, from the hat, basically from the head down. But when you're turning the figure, it doesn't really matter as much. Yeah, so I'm just going. The legs you want to do with as few strokes as possible, so you want smooth lines on the legs. Oh, and notice how they're not all connecting. Like, some places have a slightly thicker line, some places have a thinner line, some places really don't have much of a line at all. You don't want to make it like you colored in a coloring book. So, just keep going. And now it looks like the figure's ready to, like, pop off the page almost. Yay! And now I'm just doing the hat because I didn't do the hat earlier. Make sure you have a sharp point, because otherwise you will have the line become heavy. And here we go. I'm just checking the back. I'm adding a few more shadows in places where I thought they needed to be more extreme, like the inside of the leg, where the eye socket is in shadow. And then I'm adding blush. I usually add the makeup to the figure last, so that way I could really feel what it needs. So I used a peach toned colored pencil for the cheeks, and I just went back in with that true blue, very thin pencil to add eyeshadow. And here we go! She's done! So here's a close-up of her face and torso, and going down legs for days. Those lovely looking red shoes. Hey everybody, it's Em. I really hope you enjoyed watching that video. I enjoyed drawing the figure. I'm definitely going to be doing more videos like this, so subscribe so you could catch them. Comment what you thought. Like this video, share it. I love you all, and I will see you next time. Love you. Bye.